You know what? I only had the intention of doing one video tonight, but after I saved the other one, I felt like moving on, you know, doing the gym, at least the underlings. I'm probably not going to be clear in this video, so here we go. This is a double program. And yes, we all get the idea that dragons are so powerful and mythical and sacred, and no one cares really. They're just as, well, I would say they're just as weak as the rest, but that is simply not true, at least not anymore. Back in the first two generations, they weren't so special. They were more special for their helpful resistances, especially in Kingdraw's case, than because they were, you know, really powerful. But these days, it seems like dragons are just everywhere, and not because of the fact that every last one of them is either overused or uber. Only Altaria escapes that rule, because Altaria, it's not a bad Pokemon, but it's so bad compared to the other dragons. It looks like, well, not Gold, Silver, Crystal, Wobbuffet, but it certainly looks bad nonetheless. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that back in the first two generations, dragons were pretty much overlooked, especially when it comes to their offense. In Generation 1, there was only Dragon Rage, which had the fixed damage of 40. This has the only effect of being utterly banned in Little Cup because of how it one-hit KOs nearly everything. But that's not what I'm trying to say either. Then in Generation 2, there was Twister, there was Dragon Breath, and there was Outrage, but Outrage had 90 power back then. So let's check out that. No, I'm gonna keep the puzzles for later. I'm just gonna beat up the trainers for now. Yeah, Outrage only had 90 power back then, so it wasn't really worth it to use Outrage back then. And in Generation 3, we got Dragon Claw, which was our first rather strong, reliable, and with no drawbacks dragon move. That was Dragon Claw, but still not quite enough to put the dragon over the top, if you know what I mean. But in Generation 4, that's when the crap really hit the fan. You got Dragon Pulse, 90 power. Outrage was upgraded to 120 power. White Thrash and Petal Dance haven't received the same treatment. I have honestly no idea, but they definitely should get the same treatment if Outrage is gonna get it. And okay, I get the idea. What am I gonna do? I think I'd better move on and see what the rest of the room is like. And okay, I get the idea. I gotta push this one down and then the other one back up. And then, of course, I can't forget about Draco Meteor, which is a Dragon-type overheat, basically. And it's brutal. It's just plain brutal. And the reason why the Dragon-type has become so good isn't only because of those moves, but because of the fact that only one type resists those great moves, and that is the Steel type. And that segues perfectly into the next part of my argument. There are two dominant types today, Steel and Dragon. Most of the big wigs in today's metagame are Steels or Dragons. I mean, in terms of Steels, just in the top 10 last month, we had 5 of them. We had Scizor, Lucario, Heatran, we had Metagross, and we even have Jirachi. So, yeah, basically, the Steel type, I don't know what they were thinking when they made it. I mean, of course it was created along with the Dark type in order to stop the domination of the Psychic type, but was it really necessary to give them 11 resistances and 1 immunity? That was just way too much, especially considering that, well, they've got 3 weaknesses, but a lot of other types also got 3 weaknesses, and they don't get along nearly as well as the Steel type. And I know the Steel type isn't particularly fantastic offensively, and the only really threatening Steel moves I can think of are Scizor's Bullet Punch, and that's more because of Technician and Stab than anything else. It's one of the strongest priority moves in the game, and probably the strongest that's not a Stab Sucker Punch. never mind the unimpressive type coverage, it still hurts like absolute hell. So, yeah, this is how I gotta do it. So with all the trainers beaten on this floor, I can go back down and see what I've done. So, okay, so this boulder, well, maybe I gotta push another one down there. No, I can't do that. So there's probably gotta be another way around. But anyway, aside from that, there's probably Jirachi's Iron Head. Oh, I gotta take those stairs. What a waste of time. But yeah, Jirachi's Iron Head, and only because of the 60% chance of flinching, which compares to the likes of Togekiss's Air Slash and Sky Shainin's Air Slash as well. Yeah, my chances of winning aren't even 1%. Math! You're doing it wrong! But as for Iron Head Jirachi, this is probably the best steel move I can think of that's not Scissor's Bullet Punch. But moving on, I briefly mentioned that shiny Eevee that will be distributed at that tournament in Japan, and I was wondering, if you had a shiny Eevee, what would you evolve it into? Me personally, I'm hesitating between Vaporeon and Umbreon. Those two are pretty much my favorites. Umbreon looks especially cool, though, so I might go with Umbreon because a shiny Vaporeon, well, I love Vaporeon as a Pokémon, but pink, I'm not too strong on the color pink, so I guess on aesthetics alone, I would probably go with Umbreon. Oh, and you know what I hate about this gym? Only 2 evolutionary lines, and this is the last gym. Only Dratini, Horsey, and their evolutions. We're not even going to see a Dragonite in there, since Claire can't even do better than 3 Dragonairs herself. Dragonites are solely reserved for Lance. But yeah, that kind of selection is usually reserved for the first 2 gyms, not the last one. At least in Generation 3, the last gym was a water gym, and we all know the vast selection that the water type has. So, with that last underling beaten, I'm going to stop this right now because the next battle would just explode the limit. And next time we are going to meet the Queen Bitch of the Universe. And I'm not talking about Sarah Kerrigan.